So today I want to talk about some of the new water support that's coming out over the next couple of weeks. One of which is actually coming out, I think today as today's video goes up, being the Adamantia Dragon. But I really want to focus on the deep sea stuff, which will come out at the end of the month or beginning of May. I don't really know. I know that there was supposed to be the pre-release, whatever they're calling pre-release is now, world premiere. I don't really know. That was supposed to be at the end of this month. That I'm pretty sure was canceled. At least I know for my locals they're not doing it. And it also means that my regionals was canceled, and so was the YCS in Connecticut. Really unfortunate, you all know that. So today I want to talk about some of the upcoming water support, mainly the deep sea stuff that's coming out in the next set Eternity Code, which releases in about a month. I think it's almost like a month today. I think it's like early May that it comes out. The pre-release was supposed to be, or whatever they're calling it, sneak peek, pre-release, world premiere, I don't know. Supposed to be at the end of April, I believe on the 25th. That is unfortunately canceled. I hope they at least postpone it because there were supposed to be like some cool promo cards for that, apparently, at least from what I heard. Either way, we're still getting water support over the next month, not only through the deep sea support, but also some other water cards I want to talk about in this video. So I probably should have made this video when the water stuff was first announced for the deep sea stuff, but I really don't like testing new cards so far in advance. I know these were revealed in like December or so. But when I don't know, I just like to focus on what the current meta is instead of looking too far in the future. But seeing as now the current situation that we're in and seeing these cards only about a month away, I think it's actually worth looking into. So the first one we have is the Deep Sea Arson, which is probably the worst of them. And he's a level 1 regular effect monster that lets you look at your opponent's hand. And that's about it. You can also send the top card of your deck to the graveyard, target a level 4 water in your graveyard, and special summon it. But that's only when this card is special summoned. So you could, like, in theory, normal summon Diva special list, use the effect, mill a card, and then bring something back. And I'm pretty sure if this thing mills Dragoons, you get the Dragoon Search because it is sent to the graveyard to activate water monster's effect. Assuming that's for cost, I'm not really sure. But I don't think that's how that works. Next up, we have probably the best one, in my opinion, being the Deep Sea Minstrel. So I did print out some proxies because I was actually testing this deck. And I don't know about you guys, but I always prefer to play with actual cards, even if they're proxied. Like, I've been playing Dueling Book a lot lately because of the whole coronavirus situation, not being able to, like, leave the house. But this one's definitely one of the better ones. I think it's something that, you know, probably the only main deck Deep Sea monster I think is really worth running. Although the other one might possibly be worth it as a one-of. So this one's actually pretty cool. So you discard this card and one other water monster. You look at your opponent's hand and banish a card face up until the end phase. So right off the bat, that triggers Dragoons, and it's a way to get rid of a Nibiru, get rid of an Ash Blossom, get rid of Infinite Impermanence. Something we couldn't really do in the past was play around Infinite Impermanence. Now with this, we're going to just get rid of it. All of the big card definitely is going to be Nibiru. Now the issue with this card though is it's effectively, you're using 2 cards to get rid of 1 card of your opponent's hand. So I guess in theory it's a -1, right? But the Dragoons would get a search if you discard that. That is if you have the Dragoons. And, you know, through testing, the biggest issue that I was having with the Deep Sea cards is the monsters, mainly Minstrel, requires you to use too many cards in your hand, while the spell, which we'll get to in a second, just really wasn't live all the time. And the spell, I just talk about it now, it's basically a Rhoda for Sea Serpents, although it's pretty much like a Rhoda if you shoot Rotting Captain in both of its kneecaps, because it's not nearly as good as Rhoda. Because this one, you have to banish a water from your graveyard to search for a level 4 lower Sea Serpent, obviously being Neptibus, Diva, or Dragoons. Mainly, there's other things you can search, sure, like Infantry, but those are the main 3 you're going to be searching. The issue, though, is how are you going to get a water monster in the grave for Deep Sea Aria's effect? Sure, you could say, oh, we can just use Minstrel's effect over here to reveal a water and then banish that. That's kind of cool, you could do that. But then you gotta have Minstrel, another water, and the Deep Sea Aria. And I just noticed that there was a few times where I had this card in my hand and I'm like, wow, this is a great card, but I just can't activate it. And it almost reminds me of Pot of Avarice in that situation, because Pot of Avarice is a card that you can't, it's a very good card, sure, but you can't activate it at the very start of your turn. Whereas this card, you also cannot do the same. You have to get a water monster in your grave in some way, shape, or form. And there's some ways, I forgot how to do that, which I'll talk about in a second, but I want to go over the other support cards first. So we also have Deep Sea Sentry, which I have seen in some OCG lists at like a one-of. This one's actually kind of cool. So basically, it's similar to Minstrel, except your opponent chooses which card they banish till the end phase. So it's not as good, but you are still ripping a card for the turn. Granted, they're not going to rip their own Nibiru for you, but it is something, I guess. And when it's special summoned, you can also send the top 2 cards up to the graveyard, and then target a level 4 or lower water in your graveyard and special summon it, or add it to your hand, I believe, right? Except Sentry, and oh, actually add it to your hand, not even special summon it. So that's still pretty decent. Like I said, I have seen the OCG list playing it, and I haven't really tested this one in particular. But I really think the only main deck one that's worth playing or even considering is the Minstrel one. I tried it as a 2 or 3 of, and I'm still not sure where I'm sitting at. I might even just try it as a 1 of or just a 0, to be honest. But in my opinion, in my early stages of testing, this is really the only one that seems like worth playing in the main deck. Outside the spell, of course, but that's not a monster. This one is probably a 3 of, and I say probably because, you know, I have considered just straight up not playing this card, as weird as that sounds. I do think when things are all said and done, someone out there will figure out a way to play this card as a 3 of, because I sure as heck can't figure out a really consistent way to get a water in the grave. But seeing how powerful this card is to effectively give you another way to Neptune is actually really, really strong. Although one thing that I think we have to realize as Mermail players is, sure, Diva, but basically Neptune is our best card because, you know, you could argue that Dragoons or Diva are better, but at the end of the day, all they do is get us to Neptune, so that's why I say Neptune is the best card. And we already have so many ways to get the Neptune, and I feel like the biggest issue is ways to get to Mermail Abyss. Now, with the Aria, we'll have the 3 Aria, the 3 Neptune, the 3 Diva, and the 3 Dragoons, all to get to Neptune, but we only have the 3 Abyss to get to Abyss. There's no way to actually search it. So I feel like, you know, if this card said add a level 7 Aqua, I feel like it honestly might have been better, because what you could do is just normal summon Prince, send Dragoons, add Dragoons, use Aria, search for Tias. Like that I feel like that's just better. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. The Synchro, though, is actually really cool. I want to talk about. So this is a level 8, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, it's level 7, which is a kind of an awkward level. It's kind of hard to come out, but in theory, the way this would work is also it's a Synchro tuner, which could be cool. And the Synchro monster used with this is unaffected by card effects or something like that. But when this is sent to the graveyard, you can actually shuffle back a banished card that your opponent on your opponent's banished zone back to the deck. So in theory, what you could do is you could Minstrel, banish their card face up, and then they would normally get back at the end phase of the turn. But if you use the effect of Prima Donna, you could shuffle it back in the deck and effectively rip the card permanently instead of just till the end phase. Because, you know, one of the issues with Minstrel is if you look at your opponent's hands and rip something that's not really good to rip, they're just going to get it back, which isn't that great. Provided if you rip Nibiru, it's great because they can't really use Nibiru on their own turn. But let's say they have no hand traps, you just rip a random card that you can get back anyway. The Synchro will at least allow them to shuffle back in the deck and effectively rip the card out of their hand, which is pretty cool. Another card, I think this is probably the best water support out of the set, to be honest. Arguably even better than Arya. But this is a level 9 Synchro with an amazing name, Ravenous Crockasaur Arquetus. I hope they don't change that, and I hope they keep the Ravenous part, because that just sounds so threatening and intimidating. So it only has 1000 attack, it's level 9, 1 tuner plus 1 notcher, so it's fully generic, gains 5 inch attack and defense for each card in your hand, which is pretty cool because you can actually get pretty big with this thing. And you only use each effect once per turn. The first effect is actually really cool. So when you Synchro summon this card, you draw cards equal to the number of non-tuners used for this. So it's at least 1, because you need at least 1 tuner, 1 non-tuner. It's level 9, it's not too hard to bring out, it's just like Trish for this level. And I feel like this card is just strictly better than Coral Dragon. I don't understand why people still play Coral Dragon in Mermail. I've seen that a little bit, and I just don't get it. Then again, I've also seen people play only 2 Teus, which is even more mind-boggling. But this card, I feel like everyone... Not that card. This card, I feel like everyone that's playing Coral Dragon should just cut for this, because the second effect is really cool. Quick effect, detach or discard 2 cards, destroy a card on the field. Now, yes, it is 2, so it is in theory a -1, but you are drawing the 1 card to balance it out to make it at least the neutral. And if you discard an infantry, you're going to pop 2, or if you discard a Dragoon, you get the search, which is really cool. Or discard a marksman, you can pop something else as well. So this is a card that I think I would definitely play, because come the release of the new set Eternity Code, I am probably going to cut the Genex Undyne engine, which means I won't need Herald of the Arclight because I won't have a way to consistently summon it without having Genex Undyne in the deck. And I'll also be able to cut Link Spider, since I won't need Link Spider because Rose Snakes won't be as important. I might still play Rose Snakes as an extender, but I won't need it for the token to summon the controller anymore. So that leaves 2 extra spots open, which conveniently could be for the Ravenous Crockasaur and the Prima Donna, or possibly the Adamantia Dragon, which I'm actually starting to like a lot. You could make the argument that Borreload Savage is better in every way, shape, or form, because it kind of is. Basically, this is a once per turn negate on a spell or trap, while Borreload Savage Dragon is just a face-up card. Although this thing, Jurgai, whatever it's called, it actually destroys it. And if you do destroy that card, well, Borreload Savage doesn't. And this thing is a water, meaning you could also cut Jet Synchron and play Fishboard, or whatever it's called, the Fishboard that's not banned, which is, in theory, better than Jet Synchron because you don't need the discard. But the downside of the Fishboard is you have to have all waters in to special it, and it can only be synchroed into waters. But if you're not playing controller, then having only waters in grave is a lot easier, making Fishboard a lot more alive, meaning that this might actually be worth playing if I cut the Jet Synchron for Fishboard, which will also help me go into the Prima Donna and Crockasaur a lot easier. So funny how all that works out with the Fishboard monster. So that's definitely something to consider. Now, going back to what I was saying though, about the Minstrel stuff and the Aria getting stuff in grave. The first thing I thought of, whenever I see an effect that says you need something in graveyard, the first card I think of is Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is a great card, one of the best cards in the game, in my opinion. The thing is, in Mermail, it could work, because you could, like, Foolish Burial, send Rosenix, and have an extender. But in the context of playing with Deep Sea Aria, you don't want to do that because you advantage the card anyway, so basically you would just be, Foolish would just be a dead card, basically, to send a water to make Aria alive. I don't think Foolish is worth it. Another thing I consider, well, first off, we'll talk about White Stingray. White Stingray is just a typical level 4 extender. It seems like when it comes to level 4 extenders, people prefer to play the Aqua Spirit, which I'm playing right now. It's my current build, by the way, as of pre-Eternity Code. The Tenyi Spirit, which I love playing, so I played this a lot as well in the past. Or White Stingray, which is good as well, although White Stingray requires a discard and doesn't trigger Dragoon, which is a bit unfortunate. It's kind of like a swap card with level 4, I guess, and doesn't dump. And the thing with this card, though, since you discard, in theory what you could do is discard any water, summon White Stingray, which is your special summon, Deep Sea Aria, get yourself Net Abyss or Diva or whatever, and then summon that. So that's actually pretty cool. But another thing I was considering, which I think is really cool, but might be a waste of Nectric spot because it's not, there's really no way to consistently get to it, is if you play the Tenyi Spirit, right? What you can do when you have no monsters, you special summon it, and then you link immediately into the Monk of Tenyi. That gives you a water engrave, and it makes your Aria alive without losing card advantage because you have 5 cards in hand, you summon the Tenyi, so you have 4 cards in hand, 1 on board, you link it into the Monk of Tenyi, so you still have 1 card on board, 4 in hand, you play the Deep Sea Aria, banish the Water Tenyi from your graveyard, add, say, Diva, and that way you replace this with the Diva in your hand, so you still have 5 cards in hand, or excuse me, you have 4 cards in hand, 1 on field. A little cut off there, but like I was saying, this engine, if you want to call it an engine, technically doesn't make you lose card advantage, since you don't have to discard and lose card advantage, like I was saying, whatever. But it is a little bit awkward how you have to play 3 of the Tenyi Spirit and then essentially waste an extra slot on the Monk of Tenyi just to make Deep Sea Aria alive. It might still be worth it. I'm leaning more towards no, but I will say that the Tenyi Spirit is actually one of the better water extenders. I think the Tenyi Spirit and Aqua Spirit are just strictly better than White Stingray because they don't require the discard. And Mermail is a deck where you want to have cards in your hand, so I really don't want to justify having another discard, especially since we have to worry about discards with the Minstrel. If Minstrel just special summoned itself, that would actually solve so many of the problems with this deck. It's also a tuner, so you could bring out Needle Fiber and use it for a lot of synchro plays. Being level 3 tuner is actually kind of nice, but unfortunately it's not the case. I do also think it is definitely worth playing the Frogs now, because the Frogs are a single discard extender, which could be better than Minstrel in some situations, because you could discard a dead card, summon the Frog, send a Ronin to have it be another extender basically, and then play your Deep Sea Aria. So having Frog plus any water and Aria is actually a pretty nice combo. Transversely, playing triple Megalo is probably worth it now too, because Megalo is just another discard that gets you another card back from the Abyss Speller Trap. Unfortunately, it doesn't get you a monster back, but it's something to consider. And I guess in theory, the Abyss Spike could be better, but the problem with Abyss Spike is it'll really only be good with Aria to get you a Dragoons if you already have a Megalo in hand. So hypothetically speaking, let's say you have, I don't know, Dragoons, Pike, any water, and Aria. You could summon Pike, discard any water, get your gun, and then play the Aria and get a Dragoons, discard Dragoons, special Teus, get Lapis Dragon, I guess. I don't really know. Kind of just spitballing here. But either way, I do think there is something that I am missing with the Deep Sea Aria cards, mainly the Deep Sea Aria, I should say. And as much as I want to say, oh, these cards are amazing, they definitely do have their flaws. Like I said, at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure the standard Mermail / water deck list will consist of at least 2 to 3 Aria, probably 3 Aria. And, you know, you probably see Minstrel splashed in there every now and then, maybe a 0, 1, or 2 of, possibly a 3 of, I don't know. But I definitely want your guys' opinion on this. I definitely want to see what you guys think, because a lot of times I get a lot of insight from the comments. And also, by the way, I want to say, you might notice I'm recording on Dueling Book right now. A lot of people out there that just comment on videos and don't upload videos, I highly, highly encourage you to record on Dueling Book, show your combos, because, you know, the main reason I made this channel is not necessarily to grow a big Yu-Gi TV channel, is just to share my love of the deck for Mermail. If you guys don't know, I actually have another channel, which I'll always link in the description. It's a Pokemon channel, which is vastly different from these videos. I don't put a lot of effort in those videos, where here is more of a discussion type stuff about Mermail. Either way, I'm rambling. Let me know what you guys think about the new water support in the future. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you all next time. Hopefully we can play an event soon, and bye-bye.